Be me, 28-year-old woman living in downtown Seattle. Not going to bore you with my whole life story, but I consider myself pretty aware of social dynamics. Studied economics, actually. Work as a financial analyst. Spend my free time reading theory and attending community discussions about power structures. Tonight, I am at this art gallery opening because my friend Mia is exhibiting. It's one of those warehouse conversions with exposed brick and overpriced wine. Mia's stuff is actually good. Abstract pieces about inherited trauma. I am standing near her main installation when I overhear this conversation. 3 guys, probably early 30s, dressed in that annoying, casual, expensive way. You know the type, Uniqlo basics that somehow cost $80, leather boots that look worn in. One of them is talking about his divorce. I am not trying to eavesdrop, but they're literally right next to me and speaking at normal volume. Divorced guy is saying something about how he hasn't seen his daughter in 6 weeks. The lawyer told me not to push it right now, that it'll look aggressive. He sounds genuinely broken up about it. But here's the thing that immediately bothers me. His friends are nodding along, like this is normal. Like it's just an expected part of life that you might lose access to your own kid. No anger, no outrage, just this resigned acceptance. It bothers me because I know exactly what they're not saying. They're not talking about the actual issues that lead to divorce. Emotional labor, unequal household work distribution, weaponized incompetence. Instead, they've created this narrative where he's the victim. Second guy chimes in about how his ex had full control of the narrative in their friend group. Nobody even asked my side, they just assumed. Third guy mentions something about his custody arrangement, seeing his son every other weekend. I'm getting more annoyed by the second, because here they are at an art gallery, in expensive casual wear, drinking wine. Clearly they're doing fine financially. Clearly they have freedom of movement and social capital. But they're acting like they're the ones who've been wronged by the family court system. The system that exists specifically because historically men abandoned families. The system that had to be created to protect women and children. I am about to move away because I don't need this energy tonight, but then divorced guy says something that makes me stop. You know what the worst part is? I can't even be sad about it publicly. If I talk about missing my daughter, people think I am making it about me. If I don't talk about it, people think I don't care. His friends are quiet for a moment. Then the second guy says, "Yeah, it's the invisible thing." Like when my dad died last year, I took 2 days off work. My female coworker took 2 weeks when her mom died. Nobody questioned it. But I came back and my boss literally said, "That's what I like to see. Dedication." Like he was praising me for not grieving. Now I am actually interested despite myself. Not because I think they have a point, but because this is a perfect example. A perfect example of patriarchy hurting men and them completely missing it. They're describing patriarchal expectations of stoicism, masculine gender roles that feminism has been fighting against for decades. But instead of recognizing that, they're framing it as some unique male struggle. I decide I need to say something, not to be confrontational, but because someone needs to connect the dots for them. I turn slightly and say, "Excuse me," I couldn't help overhearing. Immediately, I can see their body language shift. They get that look men get when a woman enters their conversation uninvited. This subtle closing off, this defensive positioning. Already proving my point about male spaces and gatekeeping, but whatever. I think you might find it interesting that what you're describing is actually patriarchy, the expectation that men can't show emotion, that fathers are secondary parents, that grief is weakness. Feminism has been fighting these gender roles for decades. I say this in my normal voice, matter of fact, not aggressive. Divorced guy looks at me for a long moment. Then he says, "I appreciate the input, but that's not really what we were talking about." Excuse me, what? We weren't talking about gender roles in the abstract. We were talking about our actual lives. The audacity of this statement. As if theory and lived experience are somehow separate. As if the framework I just offered isn't directly applicable to what they described. Right, and I'm explaining the systemic context for your experiences. The patriarchal structures that create these exact situations. Second guy actually smirks at me. Do you always diagnose strangers' conversations at art galleries? Oh, so now I am the rude one. I am the one who's being inappropriate. not them, loudly discussing their divorced guy problems in a public space. I am offering perspective that might be helpful. These issues don't exist in a vacuum. Third guy, who's been quiet, finally speaks. Can I ask you something? And I am genuinely asking, not trying to start anything. I nod, willing to engage in good faith. When you hear me say I miss my son and I only get to see him 4 days a month, what's your immediate assumption about why that is? It's clearly a trap question, but I'll answer honestly. Without knowing the details, statistically, custody arrangements reflect caregiving patterns from the marriage. Mothers typically perform more childcare labor, so courts recognize that established bond. He nods slowly. Right, so your assumption is that I wasn't an involved parent. No, I am saying that's what the statistics show in general. I am not making claims about your specific situation. Divorced guy cuts in. But that's exactly the problem. You're applying a general framework to individual experience. What if he was the primary caregiver? What if I did all the night feedings and diaper changes? The framework you're using doesn't have room for that possibility. This is such a dishonest argument. Obviously, individual cases vary, but we're talking about systemic patterns. You can't just cherry-pick outlier examples and use them to dismiss statistical reality. Mia appears at my elbow. Thank God. Hey, you okay over here? She's looking at the 3 guys with this protective friend energy. We're just having a discussion about gender and custody. Mia makes a face. She knows exactly what kind of discussion this is. Sounds fun. I need to steal her for a minute, though. As she's pulling me away, I hear second guy say something. I can't make out the words, but his friends laugh. That knowing male laughter that's definitely at my expense. Mia brings me to the other side of the gallery. Please don't engage with the divorce guys. The divorce guys? Yeah, they're friends of my ex. Total meninist. Energy. They literally have a group chat called the Brotherhood or some cringe shit. Of course they do. Of course they have some pseudo-intellectual boys club. Probably sit around validating each other's victim complexes. They were talking about custody like they're the only ones who've ever struggled. Mia shrugs. I mean, Mark, the tall one, literally has his kid 4 days a month and pays like $3,000 in support. He was apparently super involved before the divorce, but his ex moved 2 hours away. I feel a tiny twinge of something. Not sympathy exactly, but maybe recognition that the situation is complicated. But then I remember that women move for safety. Women relocate because they need distance from their ex-partners. There's probably way more to that story. I spend the next hour looking at art and chatting with other people, but I keep noticing the 3 guys. They're not being loud or obnoxious. Actually, they're talking to artists, asking thoughtful questions about the work. Divorced guy spends like 15 minutes in front of a piece about father absence. It's by a black female artist. Really powerful stuff about generational trauma. He's just standing there, really looking at it. Later I see him talking to the artist. Can't hear what they're saying, but she's nodding, seems engaged. Whatever. He probably thinks her work is about him somehow. Men always center themselves in narratives that aren't about them. The gallery is thinning out. It's around 10 p.m. I am saying goodbye to Mia when I notice the guys are still there. They're sitting on this bench in front of the main installation. Just sitting quietly, not on their phones. Actually present in the space. Mia follows my gaze. They come to every opening, actually. They buy pieces too, like serious money. Mark bought the father absence piece. Wait, what? Why would he buy that? I don't know. Maybe because it's good art? Or maybe because it means something to him? There's an edge in Mia's voice. Are you annoyed with me? She sighs. Look, I love you. You know that. But sometimes you make these snap judgments about people. Those guys, whatever you think about their politics or whatever, they've been really supportive of my work, and they're not like evil. Mark volunteers with this youth program in Rainier Valley. Dave, the one who smirked at you, he's actually really sweet. He just has resting asshole face. And Connor's whole custody thing is actually heartbreaking if you knew the details. I feel defensive now. I am not saying they're evil. I am saying they have blind spots about their privilege. Mia gives me this look I've been getting more often lately from friends. It's not quite eye-rolling, but it's adjacent. Maybe we all have blind spots. She has to go talk to the gallery owner about sales. I am left standing there feeling oddly off balance. I should leave. I have work tomorrow. But instead, I find myself walking over to where the guys are, sitting. I don't even know what I am planning to say. Divorced guy, Mark, notices me approaching. Hey, peace offering. He holds up a bottle of wine. Gallery owner gave us this. Way too much for 3 people. The other 2 guys look up. Dave, the smirky one, looks wary. Connor, custody guy, just looks tired. I should say no. I should absolutely say no and leave. Instead I say, sure, why not? Mark pours wine into plastic cups, hands me one. We sit in silence for a moment. It's not uncomfortable exactly, just undefined. Finally I say, I wasn't trying to dismiss your experiences earlier. I was trying to provide context. Mark nods slowly. I get that, and I appreciate that you were engaging with what we were saying, but can I offer you some context? Oh, here we go. When you immediately explained our experiences through your framework, it felt like you were saying we weren't capable of understanding our own lives. Like we needed you to interpret our reality for us. That's not what I was doing, except maybe it kind of was. I am not saying the systemic stuff isn't real or doesn't matter. I am saying there's also this immediate personal level of experience, and sometimes that needs to just be acknowledged as what it is. Connor speaks up. I was the primary parent, for the record. I worked from home. I did pickups and drop-offs. I coached soccer. My ex worked 60-hour weeks at a law firm. When we divorced, the mediator basically laughed at me when I asked for primary custody. Not because of my caregiving history, but because of assumptions. I want to argue. I want to say that's one anecdote, not data, but something stops me. Maybe it's the way he's talking, flat effect, like he's beyond caring how it sounds. Or maybe it's the wine on an empty stomach. What happened? I hear myself ask. Connor shrugs. She got primary custody. I got every other weekend and one evening a week. Then she got a job offer in Portland. She's legally allowed to move. I can't stop her. So now I drive 4 hours round trip twice a month. And my son is 7. He doesn't understand why daddy isn't around. Dave adds, he had to quit coaching soccer because he can't commit to the schedule. The team was the one place where he could be involved in his kid's life consistently. There's something in the way they're talking. They're not performing grief or anger. They're just stating facts. And the facts are bleak. Mark says, my daughter is 5. She started calling my ex's new boyfriend daddy. My ex said I should be happy she has a positive male role model. And I am happy she's in a good environment. But also, I'm still alive. I'm still here. I'm still her dad. He says this without self-pity, just observation. My therapist said I need to accept that I can't control the narrative, that my job is to be consistent and present during my time. But how do you compete with the default parent? How do you maintain a relationship on 40? 8 hours a month? I'm listening now, really listening, not formulating responses, just taking it in. Dave, who I dismissed as smirky and rude, starts talking. I don't have kids, so my shit is less heavy. But when my dad died, the thing Connor mentioned earlier was real. I was back at work in 2 days, because that's what you do. My boss praised me for being professional. Meanwhile, I was having panic attacks in my car at lunch. And I couldn't talk about it because, he pauses, seems to struggle for words, because there's no script for it. Women have this whole language for emotional processing. They have frameworks and support systems and permission. Guys have, what? Therapy if you can afford it and aren't too ashamed? And drinking, we have drinking. He laughs, but it's hollow. Mark adds, that's why we started the group. It's not some meninist thing, it's a space where we can talk about this stuff without explanation, without having to justify why it's hard, or defend ourselves against accusations of privilege. And there it is, the implied criticism of my earlier intervention. I should feel defensive. Instead, I feel something else, something uncomfortable. The thing is, I start carefully. Everything I said earlier about patriarchy is still true. These are gender role expectations that harm everyone, Connor nods. Sure, but feminism didn't create space for this conversation. It created theory about toxic masculinity and patriarchal dividends, which, fine, academically sound. But when I am crying because I missed my son's birthday, theory doesn't help, Mark jumps in. And before you say, feminism helps men too, show me where. Show me the feminist organizations lobbying for custody reform. Show me the feminist support groups for divorced dads. Show me where male victims of domestic violence fit into the framework. I open my mouth to respond. There are organizations, there are resources, but even as I think it, I know the examples are sparse. Tokenistic even. It's not feminism's job to fix men's problems, I say. Men need to organize and create those resources themselves. Dave looks at me steadily. Okay, but when we do, we're called misogynists. When we try to talk about custody disparities, we're accused of derailing conversations about women's issues. So, which is it? Are we supposed to fix it ourselves or not? Because every time we try, we're told we're the problem. This conversation is not going the way I expected. I thought I'd either win them over with logic or dismiss them as unreachable. Instead, we're in this weird space of actual dialogue. And I'm not sure I like what I'm hearing. Not because it's wrong exactly, but because it complicates things. Mark refills my wine without asking. Look, we're not anti-feminist, he says. I want my daughter to grow up with every opportunity. I want her to be safe and empowered and free. But I also want to be part of her life. And I want her to know that her dad isn't some optional extra. That fatherhood is real and meaningful, Connor adds. And I want my son to know he can cry, that he can be vulnerable and soft and still be valid. But I also want him to see male strength, not toxic masculinity, just resilience. And I can't model that if I am disappeared from his life. There's a long pause. The gallery is almost empty now, just us and a couple staff members cleaning up. Finally, I say, "What do you want from me?" It comes out more confrontational than I meant. But it's a genuine question. What is the point of this conversation? Mark looks surprised. Nothing. We don't want anything from you. You joined our conversation, remember? Shit, he's right. I just meant, what's the takeaway here? Are you trying to convince me feminism is bad? That men are the real victims? Dave laughs, not unkindly. No, we're just telling you our lives. You can do whatever you want with that information. Connor leans forward. But since you asked, here's what I wish. I wish when men talk about their struggles, the immediate response wasn't but patriarchy. Not because patriarchy isn't real, but because it's used as a conversation ender. It's used to delegitimize immediate suffering. Mark nods. Like, yes, systemic analysis matters. But also, I haven't hugged my daughter in 6 weeks. Both things can be true, and one doesn't cancel out the other. I sit with this for a moment. Part of me still wants to argue, wants to point out that women have it worse in aggregate, that individual male suffering doesn't override systemic female oppression. But another part of me recognizes that impulse as defensive, as exactly what Connor just described. Okay, I say slowly. I hear you. Dave raises his eyebrows. That's it? No rebuttal? No explanation of how we're actually experiencing patriarchy? I feel my face get hot. I mean, you are experiencing patriarchy. But I get that leading with that feels dismissive. Mark actually smiles. Look at that. Growth. He's teasing me, but not meanly. Fuck off, I say. But I'm almost smiling too. We sit there for another minute. Then Connor says something that shifts everything. Can I ask what you get out of it? Out of what? Out of the framework. Like, what does it do for you to immediately categorize experience as patriarchy? I don't understand the question. It helps me understand the world. It provides analytical tools. He shakes his head. No, I mean emotionally. What do you get out of it? I genuinely don't know how to answer. I get to feel like I understand things. Like the world makes sense. There are patterns and causes. Connor nods. And when you encounter something that doesn't fit the pattern, like 3 guys at an art gallery talking about custody and grief, oh fuck. I get to feel superior. I don't mean to say it out loud. It just comes out. The 3 of them go very still. Not smug, not triumphant, just witnessing. I get to feel like I know more than you. Like I'm more aware, more evolved. Like I have the answer, and you're just stumbling in the dark. Mark says quietly, and we just threatened that by having experiences that didn't fit your framework, by not being grateful for your explanation. I feel something cracking open in my chest. It's not pleasant. I do this with everyone, I hear myself say. Not just men, everyone. my sister, my mom, my friends. I'm always explaining, always providing context, always positioning myself as the one who really understands. Dave says it's a kind of control. If you can explain it, you can manage it. You can feel safe. Who the fuck is this guy? What do you do? I ask him. Therapist, he says, of fucking course. That's why you smirked earlier. You knew exactly what I was doing. He shrugs. I see it a lot. The need to systematize experience. It's not gender specific, but it is a way of managing anxiety about chaos. Connor adds, the thing about our situations, custody, grief, whatever. It's chaos. There's no pattern that makes it okay. No framework that makes it hurt less. It just is what it is. Mark finishes the thought. And that's terrifying. So we come here, look at art, talk to each other. We buy pieces that reflect something true. We sit with the mess of it. I'm crying. When did I start crying? This is humiliating. Dave hands me a napkin. It's okay, he says. And somehow that makes it worse, because he's being kind. After I was dismissive and superior and rude, he's just being kind. I'm sorry, I manage. For earlier, for assuming, for all of it. Mark shakes his head. You don't have to apologize. You were doing what you thought was helpful, Connor says. And you weren't entirely wrong. The systemic stuff is real. We just needed you to see us as people first. Theory, second. We sit in silence while I pull myself together. The gallery owner comes over. Hey folks, we're closing up. We all stand, gathering our things. As we're walking out, Mark says, we do this every month, first Friday. Gallery openings, we just go and look at art and talk. You're welcome to join if you want. I look at him to see if he's serious. He is. Why would you invite me after tonight? He shrugs. Because you listened eventually, and because we could use more perspectives. We're not trying to be an echo chamber. Dave adds, plus you were right about some stuff. We do have blind spots. Everybody does. We're standing on the sidewalk now, Seattle at night, cold and damp. Connor says, the thing about being a man in 2024 is that you're simultaneously told you're the problem, and that your problems don't matter. And somehow you're supposed to fix yourself, while also not talking about it, because talking about it is derailing, Mark continues. So we just started talking to each other. No agenda, no theory, just experience, and it helps. Not because we solve anything, but because we witness each other. There's that word again, witness. I think about my own friendships. How much of our conversation is about being right, about having the correct analysis, about performing awareness? When was the last time I just witnessed someone? When was the last time I let myself be witnessed? I'd like that, I say. To join you guys sometime. Dave grins. Cool, but you have to promise not to explain our feelings to us. I laugh. It's watery but real. I promise to try. That's all we can ask, Mark says. We exchange numbers. They head toward parking. I head toward the bus. On the ride home, I keep replaying the conversation, trying to find the moment where I lost control of it. Because that's what happened, right? I went in thinking I'd educate them, and instead they educated me. They didn't obliterate me with facts and logic. They didn't even really argue with me. They just refused to let me make them theoretical. They insisted on being human, on having specific, individual pain that couldn't be categorized away. And somehow that was more devastating than any argument, because it revealed what I've been doing, not just tonight, but for years, using theory as a shield, using frameworks to avoid actual connection, staying safe in my superior understanding. My phone buzzes. It's Mia. So you spent an hour with the divorce guys. Want to tell me how that happened? I type back, I think I just got my ass handed to me, and I'm not even mad about it. She sends back a laughing emoji. Character development. I get home, pour myself water, sit on my couch. My cat jumps up, demands attention. I pet her and think about everything. About Mark buying the father absence piece. About Connor driving 8 hours a month to see his son. About Dave having panic attacks in his car. About how my first instinct was to explain their pain to them, to fit it into my understanding, rather than just letting it exist. I think about all the conversations I've had like this, all the times I've been so certain, so sure of my framework. and how that certainty has maybe cut me off from actually seeing people, from being changed by encounters. My phone buzzes again. It's a number I don't recognize. Hey, it's Connor. Mark gave me your number. Just wanted to send you this. It's a link to an article about family court reform, written by a woman, actually. A feminist arguing for custody presumptions based on actual caregiving, not gender assumptions. Thought you might find it interesting, he writes. Not trying to prove anything, just sharing. I read the article. It's good, well-researched, persuasive. It's also everything I claimed didn't exist earlier. Feminist work on behalf of fathers' rights. Except it's not framed as fathers' rights. It's framed as children's rights and equal parenting. I text back, thank you for this. And, thank you for tonight. I needed to hear what you all said, he responds. We needed to say it to someone who'd actually push back. Echo chambers feel safe, but they don't help. I sit with that for a long time. Echo chambers feel safe. Isn't that exactly what I've created? A theoretical framework that explains everything. Friends who share my analysis. Righteous anger at those who don't get it. It feels safe. But has it helped? Has it made me more compassionate? More connected? More capable of actual change? Or has it just made me more certain, more rigid, more alone in my correctness? I think about next month's gallery opening, about showing up and listening, about letting people be complicated, about witnessing instead of explaining. It feels vulnerable in a way I'm not used to, like I'm giving up some kind of power. Except maybe the power was always an illusion. Maybe real power is in connection, in being changed by other people, in admitting you don't have all the answers. I finish my water and get ready for bed. Tomorrow I have work, normal life, but something has shifted. I can feel it. Some certainty has cracked, and instead of scrambling to repair it, I'm going to let it stay broken for a while, see what grows in the cracks. As I'm falling asleep, I think about Mark's daughter, about how he bought that piece about father absence, about what it means to stare at your own pain, reflected in art, and choose to take it home, to live with it, instead of explaining it away. Maybe that's what tonight was. An invitation to live with complexity, to sit with discomfort, to be wrong and survive it, to be challenged and grow from it. The last thing I think before sleep takes me is that I've spent so long trying to be right. I forgot how to be real. And maybe those three guys, with their custody arrangements and their grief and their monthly art gallery ritual, maybe they just reminded me that being human is more important than being correct, and that sometimes the most radical thing you can do is just shut up and listen.